I am slowly but surely starting to realize that the reason why most relationships do not work is because people get into them for the sake of companionship rather than growth. And we'll lie to ourselves and be like, yo, I want a relationship. I want a woman in my life. I want a man in my life. Well, what comes with that, a legitimate relationship, is growth. And what's crazy is it's going to be growth against your will. Oftentimes, people have to go through these karmic relationships first in order to learn the lessons they need to learn to get that person who they would consider to be their soulmate. I want to be more me. I want to see more parts of myself that I simply cannot uncover on my own. Some healing and some growth can't take place, in my opinion, outside of relationships, which is why we must open our heart to be open to pain.
I love that video so much. Please go watch the whole thing. It's linked in my caption. And I think about this a lot, and I have learned this the hard way, and I've learned this over a long period of time. I have a few points I want to make on this. So I did not realize at the time that this is what was happening. Oh my God, look, he hates being on camera. He was like, fuck you. Just straight up protesting. Anyway, I didn't realize when I started a friendship with Liz, who I talk about a lot. She's like my soulmate. My husband's my soulmate too, but she was my very first soulmate. She will always be just as important to me as my husband. She's been my longest friend. She literally I don't know how to explain it. But what I didn't realize until I had a friendship with her, not that I didn't learn this in other relationships, but she pushed me to grow and learn about myself, about relationships, about all kinds of stuff. And it was because she challenged me a lot, right? Always in a very loving and thoughtful way. But, she was the one who taught me that just because if she's mad at me, it is not her job to make me feel better immediately, that I have to wait and I have to sit in my discomfort of her being mad at me, because she needs to collect herself and figure out what it is that she needs to say. So for one reason is so she doesn't say something she regrets, right? Like that's just one of many lessons. I learned from my friendship with her that I was terrified of commitment. Like I kind of was like not looking for, y'all know, I didn't really date anyone seriously until my late 30s, or like when I was 36. And then that man tried to unalive me. Great start. But what I realized with her is that I am absolutely terrified of intimacy, connection, in any terms of commitment. And yet I'm also like really good at commitment, right? It's that I'm terrified of being trapped, and that my actions always showed that I really wanted a friendship with her. I wanted to be in a relationship with her, that she was so important to me. So I'd show up and show up and show up and easily commit. But when she asked me, for example, and we laugh about this all the time, we lived in our trucks next to each other. We worked in the outdoor adventure. We were raft guides together. We were very nomadic because we had to follow the work back and forth from New Mexico to California, right? And people refer to us as Liz and Melanie and Liz, the way you would a couple, right? Because we were just like this, right? Her parents would ask about me. They never even met me. And my parents always ask about her, even though they never met her. That's how much we were just like soulmates, and people always knew that. And yet, when she asked me one day, after we'd been doing this for like a couple years, if she could share a P.O. box with me, I was like, what? What else do you want from me? And I was like terrified of sharing something with her because I don't want to be locked into anything. Even though I'm fine, just keep going with this. But like anything that was symbolically like about commitment, I was like, no. And I felt trapped, and I got really like mean about it. And she was like, it's just a P.O. box. It's literally just because I can't get one because New Mexico is so weird about that. They won't recognize whatever. If you know, you know. Taos, especially, if you know, you know. And so we had like a fight over it where I'm like, can't you just get your own? It was like, it's like that. And I learned so many lessons about myself from her showing me what I needed to work on. From her showing me in real time these deep, deep wounds that needed to be healed. And also her showing me on a regular basis who I am. I didn't realize that I had so much to offer. I didn't realize that I was funny. I didn't realize all these things about myself, but she saw them in me. So relationships are supposed to, one, help you get to know yourself by someone mirroring back to you these amazing qualities about yourself that you just can't see always, right? And this is the important part, they're also supposed to mirror back the things you really need to work on so that you can grow. And that's the point of relationship. And it's not just Liz, like my sister, when her and I went on a road trip together, I wouldn't give her keys to my car. We were literally living out of my truck for like 10 days. And I would not give her keys to my car because I didn't want her unsupervised around my stuff. And it was just like she had to call me out so many times about how controlling I am around like my privacy. You know, she's the one who taught me that I am very selfish when it came to meals, that I never asked her where she wanted to eat, when she wanted to eat. I was just like, I need to eat now. And I'd sit on my tailgate on the side of the road and just start eating. And she's like, don't you think about me? Like, I know you've never been in a relationship before, Melanie, but you have, like, you know what I mean? I was like, I didn't realize I was just so, like, such a lone wolf mentality, right? She also taught me that, it, you know, when I thought we just had to talk all the time, she was the one who taught me that, like, no, you're supposed to take space from each other, even on a road trip, that we don't have to talk all the time. We don't have to fill air, fill space. And that a real sign of intimacy is being able to be next to someone that you care about and not feel the need to talk. All of that I learned in relationships, right? So a lot of people think that, like, that video is not about how you can't heal and that you can't know yourself without a romantic relationship. That's not at all what but a lot of people kind of think that. But I will say that, you know, in a partnership like my husband, since I met him, I have learned more about myself because, you know, I'm spending more time. I live with this man. You know, we're also physically intimate. So it's even on a deeper level, on some level, than with my friend Liz or my sister. But it's not necessarily more intimate. It's just different, right? Because there's a physical component in our schmegs stuff. It's a nerve and a sensitive area that nothing else can kind of hit on those sensitive parts, and traumas especially if you have childhood SA and stuff like I do. Nothing can hit on that the way, you know, a schmegel relationship can. But I have learned more from my husband about myself, not just about him, but about myself, good and bad. And I don't mean good or bad, like whatever. I don't believe in good or bad, right? But things that are, for instance, some of my best qualities are also my biggest liabilities when not kept in check. I'm super creative. I love working hard. I'm very passionate. But when that stuff is not kept in check, I will literally cut off everybody from the world. Like, that's a dumb example. But my sense of humor, it's one of the things I love the most about myself. But as I learned, because of relationships with other people, I hide behind humor. I gaslight any other feeling because I'm like, whatever, instead of being like, this is painful, or this makes me angry, or stuff like that. I have never been angry at a person to their face, more or less, until I got married. Partly because I didn't know how, you know, and I was an approval seeker, people pleaser, codependent, and all that stuff for such a long time, and I've worked so hard on that. But also because my husband is such a good communicator, and he makes me feel so safe that I feel safe being angry at him. And I tapped in to anger and even the language of anger, and even like righteous anger a lot of times. So instead of being passive aggressive, which is a very violent in and of itself, to be like, you know, like smiling while just bullying somebody, like, you know, or passive aggressive in my way is just to be like, okay, I'm done, and just tap out, right? Like just avoiding conflict. I don't want to do that anymore, because conflict, healthy conflict, conflicting emotions, conflicting mindset, conflicting, you know, and then traumas, dancing with each other all the time, your former trauma, you're gonna have conflict. Conflict is good, not like violence or, you know what I mean? But that's how, like, every time me and my husband bump up against something, we grow. We understand each other more, and we also understand ourselves more. I have grown more in this relationship with him than anyone else other than maybe Liz. I did therapy, and I did groups, and I did Reiki, and I spent a fortune trying to heal myself. All of that stuff was, I believe, necessary and good and helped me. But I cannot heal alone. I have to heal in community and in relation. It wasn't until this relationship that I realized how uncomfortable I am with being loved. I don't resist it. I let him love me, but it makes me really uncomfortable still. Now, I will say that one of the things I've realized in my healing is that what I'm comfortable with is usually like not great things for me. And what I'm very uncomfortable with as my default are things that are healthy. And I use this analogy all the time. It's like I've been walking on my hands my whole life. And the world is upside down. And so then when I'm finally have like my land legs, I'm like Ariel when she first gets like legs. I'm like, right? It's very uncomfortable to be in a healthy relationship. Oh, look at you. It's very uncomfortable to have someone just adore me and love me and show me affection. And I'm like, it makes me uncomfortable, but I also secretly love it. I love it. But I'm like, but that's because I've been working so hard to like love myself and take care of myself and heal a lot of those traumas. And I did a lot of that before I met him. But I'm still like uncomfortable with it, but embracing it, right? But I would have never known just how much I am this way, or just how much internalized misogyny, internalized fat phobia, internalized like all the things, right? Ageism. When he looks at me and he's just like, you're so beautiful. And I'm like, really? Like with these wrinkles? You know what I mean? Like, I am the one in the beginning of our relationship who is constantly trying to make intimacy always about schmegs. Now, part of that is being hyper schmegual, which is a result a lot of times of childhood trauma, SA, right? I'm just like, I just assume that like everything has to be about literally schmegs, and rather than like intimacy being about other things, right? And so I was like, oh my God, like I am like dehumanizing him sometimes. And it helped. It took, my therapist and conversations with Liz and then conversations with him where I've really seen, I'm like, oh wow, this is what, you know what I mean? There's so many things that I've learned about myself that I never would have learned going to therapy and sitting in my apartment all by myself. And so I want to make sure that I'm really clear here, like the decentering thing, the decentering men and decentering women who center men and all that stuff like that I talk about. I'm still like on that page, right? But I always want to make sure that what I'm also getting across is that, yes, we have to work on ourselves. Not everyone can afford a therapy and stuff like that, by the way. I mean, I'm in so much debt because of everything I've spent trying to like heal my body and heal my trauma and heal my blood and blah, 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 blah. I would do this stuff for like a full-time job for a long time, but one that I have to pay for rather than get paid, right? And again, I don't regret any of it, but none of that stuff will actually work if I don't have experiential learning in relationships. And it doesn't mean get into a relationship with a man to learn these lessons. No, like that is, please don't take that lesson from this, because that could actually end your life. That could reinforce old pattern cycles. Like that could reinforce all that trauma instead of actually healing it. And so what I'm saying is that I believe that my relationship with Liz, my friend, really set me up to start to learn about relationships, to let people in. I was so afraid. I had no idea how afraid I was of intimacy, physical intimacy that wasn't schmegual, until Liz pointed it out when she gave other people hugs all the time. When we would meet up, for the first time in a while, and she'd go and she'd give everyone a hug, and then she'd be like, hi. And I'm like, what? Why aren't you hugging me? And she's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I will if you want me to, but I get the sense that you're not really comfortable with it. And I was like, oh my God, you know me so well. Because all these other people I'm hugging, but I'm like, I hate this. And I didn't realize until she mirrored it back to me based on what she saw, was that I was really uncomfortable with touch. So then I had to work on that. I started going to like massage therapy to learn how to be touched in a safe, non-schmegual way. I did that for so long, y'all, because I was so afraid of even human touch. Okay? And so I'm not saying, so please don't just start dating when, you're really like early in this decentering men thing, but in community, in friendships, And it does mean taking some chances and putting your heart on the table and getting and learning painful lessons a lot of times. But the problem is that when you learn those hard lessons with men in patriarchy, they can literally ruin your life and take your life. So I highly encourage people to learn those in community, in friendships, right? Like in other ways. But with men, the stakes are so high. Please don't just go out and try it, because that's literally how I almost died. I jumped right into a relationship when I thought I was ready, and all I did was reinforce all this trauma. And then I ended up learning some really important lessons. So I actually don't even regret that relationship. But unfortunately for me, because I have to learn everything the hard way, drives my parents crazy. I had to almost die to realize, oh, I got a lot of codependency and a lot of stuff that I still need to work on. But please don't let people convince you that, and I know I'm going to get some pushback from this because a lot of people are, I was actually happier alone for a long time. I needed to feel safe. But I had to keep pushing myself a little bit more and more to take baby steps and open myself up little by little to be vulnerable. Not vulnerable with just anybody, but baby vulnerable steps. Not reckless vulnerability. We are not meant to be all alone. That is the individualist mindset under capitalism and white supremacy culture and toxic masculinity and all that crap, and it's not working. I am here to be in community with people, and I had to do a lot of healing, and I'm always going to be learning more, right? But I being like a lone wolf really wasn't going well. I was missing out, and I felt safe, and I was doing my adventures, and I was a climber, and I'm so strong. But saying I love you? No way. Letting someone love me? No way. So my biggest adventure, the bravest thing I've ever done, is facing my fears in small steps. Because when I took 2 biggest steps, I got my ass handed to me. That's the bravest thing I've ever done. Opening up my heart, being willing to experience pain, and then learning from those lessons and evolving from there. I don't know if this makes any sense. I hope it does. But please don't think that decentering men, that means you're just going to be alone. No, that's not healthy. That's not the point of all this. Learning how to have relationships with lower stakes. That's what I hope I'm getting across on this page. But please let me know in the comments if I need to clarify anything, or if you disagree or whatever. I'd love to hear it. And please do leave comments, because it really helps with the algorithm, especially since I block men all the time. So it kind of kills my views on here, but I'd rather it be a safe place than a toxic one that people don't feel safe, but it's full of comments, and gets in the algorithm. I'm not here for that. That's not my goal. And subscribe if you like my stuff, set up notifications, share, whatever. It all helps.